Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 10 Part 32 based on novel. So let's start. Lin Dong's face became completely dark and solemn after hearing Yang's words. What is this eternal illusion demon flower? Lin Dong softly asked in his heart. A terrifying thing within the Yimo tribe. It is rumored that one must use the blood and flesh of countless lives in order to grow such a flower. Additionally, it requires the blood of an Yimo king to draw out its properties. Finally, an eternal illusion demon flower will be born after 1,000 years. Yang's voice appeared a little grave. This flower is able to emit a fragrance that humans cannot detect. Moreover, once this fragrance is inhaled into one's body, one will fall into a never-ending hallucination. Once trapped within it, the only way out is the death of one's body. Moreover, it is practically impossible for outsiders to realize that the victim has fallen into this trap, and they would be under the impression that the victim is in a deep level of training. Lin Dong's pupils shrunk slightly. You mean, all the experts from the celestial demon Martin tribe have already fallen into this hallucination state? Yes. Yang lightly nodded. The Yimo have indeed secretly done something to this heavenly cave. All the top experts from the celestial demon Martin tribe in seclusion here have likely fallen into their trap. This includes the tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe. Lin Dong let out a long sigh, exhaling some of the shock in his heart. The frightening techniques of devil prison caused his heart to tremble a little. This heavenly cave was an important territory of the celestial demon Martin tribe. Yet, they were able to trap these secluded top experts here right under the eyes of the celestial demon Martin tribe. Such ability made one's heart thud with fear. This was the celestial demon Martin tribe, one of the 4 overlord tribes. It was a top-tier existence even in the entire world. Yet, it now seemed so weak in the hands of devil prison. No wonder all the tribes and factions in the world had set aside their differences and joined together to fight the Yimo in that ancient era. It is exceedingly difficult for those who fall into this state to realize that they are within a hallucination. I'm afraid that they probably currently believe that they have already exited the heavenly cave and are living free and leisurely lives. Lin Dong pursed his lips as his eyes became increasingly grave. A hallucination that no one could detect. This technique was indeed extremely mysterious. Let's look for little Martin's father first. Lin Dong sighed softly. The most important thing now was to find little Martin's father and see if any accident had occurred. Given the current situation though, there was a 90% chance that something had already gone wrong. Lin Dong held these thoughts in his heart as he quickened his pace. With the faint response from the blood feather in his hand, he swiftly traveled in a certain direction. Lin Dong once again sensed 3 places of seclusion along his journey. He was again a little shocked by the eternal illusion demon flower on the walls within these caves. Clearly, all of them had fallen into a hallucination. Lin Dong's dashing figure continued for half an hour, before it finally paused. His eyes stared intently at the blood feather in his hand. The dim blood feather had currently regained some light. Have we arrived? Lin Dong muttered after seeing this. After which, he turned his head to look towards the darkness on his left, extended his hand and gently touched it. When Lin Dong's hand came into contact with the dark space, it was possible to see a light ripple spread on it. Soon after, the darkness withdrew and a spacious and quiet cave appeared in Lin Dong's sights. This cave was undoubtedly even quieter compared to those few from earlier. A bright candlelight swayed while the place was filled with a calming sandalwood fragrance. An imposing figure sat on a green stone platform located at the middle of the cave. The figure wore black clothes and his long dark golden hair scattered down from his head. A faint overbearing aura spread outwards. This feeling was as though he was a unique ferocious beast which could unleash a frightening ferocity at any time. Lin Dong stared at the imposing figure of the dark golden hair middle-aged man in the cave. Even from here, he was still able to sense the might and pressure that emanated from within the latter's body. This feeling was not weaker than that of the dragon tribe leader. Evidently, this person should be little Martin's father, the current celestial demon Martin tribe leader. Look at the mountain wall behind him. Yang's low voice suddenly sounded while Lin Dong sighed in relief after finding his target. Lin Dong's eyes drifted over after hearing this and his pupils abruptly tightened. He could see 3 black, eternal illusion demon flowers gently swaying on the mountain wall behind the imposing figure. Faint black light flowed over their petals. There were actually 3 eternal illusion demon flowers in this place. 3 flowers, this Yimo tribe is really willing to splooge. However, this is the only way for them to trap a peak expert who has stepped into the reincarnation stage. Yang clicked his tongue and said. He has indeed been caught in their trap. Lin Dong knitted his brows. His eyes stared at the quiet cave, but did not dare to casually enter. Since the eternal illusion demon flower was able to trap even a reincarnation stage expert, Lin Dong would likely end up spending his entire life in a hallucination if he was accidentally caught by it. What should we do? How can we pull him out from the hallucination? Should we destroy the eternal illusion demon flowers? Lin Dong could only consult the extremely experienced Yang at such a time. The hallucination fragrance emitted by the eternal illusion demon flower has already been absorbed into his body. Therefore, even if you destroy the flowers, you can only wait until the hallucination fragrance within his body is removed. Only then will he automatically awaken. Yang said. How long will that take? Lin Dong frowned. At least half a year. Lin Dong's frown deepened. The celestial demon Martin tribe was about to select the tribe leader successor in the next few days. It was obvious that they could not wait half a year. How can we remove the hallucination fragrance inside his body? Since the main problem was the hallucination fragrance that had invaded the body of the celestial demon Martin tribe leader, all he could do was to try and think of a way to remove this fragrance. Normally, it is impossible to remove this hallucination fragrance, and it can only be gradually consumed. However, there is an extraordinary solution, right? Given Lin Dong's understanding of Yang, the latter would most likely have some solution when he spoke in such a manner. You are quite quick to catch on, the hallucination fragrance is indeed extremely troublesome. However, it is fortunate that you possess the ancestor stone. Back then, my master created me in order to deal with the Yimo tribe. Therefore, this hallucination fragrance is also within the range of my abilities. Lin Dong quietly sighed in relief after hearing this. He did not delay any longer. The blood feather in his hand shot out, and the seal on the light screen was broken. Yang, protect me. A warm white light was emitted from Lin Dong's body after his voice sounded, thoroughly wrapping around him. Only upon seeing this did Lin Dong's heart become calm. However, he still retained some vigilance as he stepped into the spacious mountain cave. Lin Dong sensed an extremely weak and mysterious fragrance enter his nostrils after stepping into the cave, and a wave of dizziness immediately swept over his mind. Fortunately, this dizziness was not intense and he quickly recovered. However, shock still flashed across his eyes. This eternal illusion demon flower was indeed terrifying. Lin Dong had still been affected even under the protection of the ancestor stone. He could imagine how he would have already fallen into a hallucination had he been careless and directly entered this place. There is an extremely powerful Yimo king in that ancient era known as the Illusion Devil King. He consumed the eternal illusion demon flower as food and was able to cause one to fall into an endless hallucination with a wave of his hand. Unless one is a peak expert who has stepped into the reincarnation stage, everyone, including samsara stage experts, will only face death before him. Yang sighed emotionally. So powerful. Lin Dong was a little shaken. A samsara stage expert was indeed inferior to a reincarnation stage expert. However, it was not until the extent where the former would have no way to survive. Was that Illusion Devil King really so powerful? Many samsara stage experts died at his hands during the World War back then, and even some reincarnation stage experts had also been killed by him. Eventually, it was the Ice Master who killed him. The Ice Master again. Lin Dong felt helpless. The pressure that this name gave him was really huge. Pitter-patter. Lin Dong walked within the quiet mountain cave. After which, he paused in front of the stone platform. Now that he was closer, he could sense that overbearing aura from this tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe was a little similar to that of Little Martin. However, it was not as bewitching as Little Martin's. Instead, it had an additional pressure and sternness of someone who had occupied a high position for a long time. Lin Dong simply stared at this black-clothed middle-aged man in front of him. His pupils suddenly shrunk in the next moment. This was because he could see that the finger of this person, who ought to have fallen into an hallucination, had suddenly twitched slightly. Oh! Even Yang by the side let out an exclamation upon detecting this change. What happened? Lin Dong asked in a stunned voice. If the leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe was in a hallucination, it should be impossible for him to detect any outside activity. It seems that this celestial demon Martin tribe leader is quite impressive. Although he is currently within a hallucination, he likely still detected something. However, he is still not quite certain, Yang said. In other words, it is possible that he, who is in an hallucination, has discovered this fact, but he also holds some doubts over this discovery. That's right. Yang nodded. He quickly smiled and said, "This is good. If he has some doubts to begin with, we will have less trouble waking him up." Back then, there were some experts who could not be woken after falling into a hallucination. This is because they believed that the hallucination was the true reality, and the voice waking them was instead the hallucination. Lin Dong quietly sighed. This method of preventing one from distinguishing between hallucination and reality was really frightening. Let's finish off these eternal illusion demon flowers first. Lin Dong walked around the stone platform and came to the mountain wall. He clenched his hand and black light and lightning danced over it. He was prepared to destroy the main culprit, the eternal illusion demon flowers. Wait, this thing is also a treasure. Don't simply destroy it. Yang's voice suddenly echoed just as Lin Dong was about to destroy the eternal illusion demon flowers. Oh! Lin Dong was startled. He was clearly unaware of why Yang wanted this thing. Yang chuckled mischievously. His voice was filled with mystery. From a certain point of view, this eternal illusion demon flower is a rare and mysterious treasure to those who cultivate mental energy. It is likely that you will need to borrow its power to help you break through to the Symbol Grandmaster stage. Symbol Grandmaster? Lin Dong's body clearly stiffened for a moment when these two words entered his ears. Following which, there was intense heat surging from deep within his jet-black eyes. Symbol Grandmaster. This was a watershed level for the Symbol Masters. There were many people in this world who trained their mental energy. Similarly, there were many people who trained both their mental energy and yuan power simultaneously. However, there were very few practitioners whose mental energy cultivation could reach the Symbol Grandmaster level. Mental energy was undoubtedly even more ethereal compared to yuan power. Therefore, trying to reach the level of Symbol Grandmaster was evidently no easy task. Before reaching the Symbol Grandmaster level, the strength of one's mental energy might be a little weaker compared to the powerful and majestic yuan power. However, upon stepping into this level, the true might of mental energy would be slowly revealed. A Symbol Grandmaster was comparable to a Samsara stage expert. In fact, even a Samsara stage expert would have a great headache when dealing with a top expert whose mental energy had reached the Symbol Grandmaster level. Currently, Lin Dong's mental energy cultivation was at the Advanced Divine Symbol Master level and he was only one step away from the Symbol Grandmaster level. However, he was well aware that he would need a huge chance encounter in order to take this step. However, was this eternal illusion demon flower the chance encounter that he was waiting for? The eternal illusion demon flower is able to cause one to fall into a hallucination. The thing that is trapped in the hallucination is not one's physical body, but one's mental energy body. Therefore, from a certain point of view, this is a unique training method for one's mental energy. Of course, the precondition is that one must be able to control this power. Otherwise, not only would one fail to make progress, but one might end up harming one's mental energy body and cause one to wither to death. Yang said in a faint voice. Lin Dong nodded. It seems like this item was both a threat and an opportunity at the same time. Of course, we do not have the time now. Let's resolve the issues here first. Yang's voice had just sounded when a warm white light shot out from within Lin Dong's body. The light gathered and transformed into a white light dagger. The dagger flashed and left 3 blade glows. It was possible to see 3 huge pits being cut on the mountain wall. The rocks fell and one could see some dark roots extending from within the soil. The roots were entangled around each other and it appearing exceptionally terrifying, like the face of a ghost. Hiss hiss. That eternal illusion demon flowers seemed to have detected some danger after they were removed from the soil, as they actually emitted sharp cries. The flowers danced before dense black light, which was accompanied by a hallucination fragrance, swiftly swept towards Lin Dong. Lin Dong was startled upon seeing this. He did not expect these plants to be so fearsome even after they were weeded out. Humph! Yang's cold snort sounded at this moment. A white light shot out from within Lin Dong's body and turned into an ancient stone talisman. Symbols shot out from the stone talisman like chains and embedded themselves into the rocks that had fallen into the soil. Bang! The rocks burst apart before 3 complicated black rhizomes emerged under the entwinement of the many symbol chains. They struggled intensely as waves of evil black chi came seeping out. However, these black chi completely disappeared upon making contact with the symbol chains, just like snow meeting lava. Collect! A low cry was emitted from within the stone symbol. The symbol chains retreated while they were directly wrapped around the 3 eternal illusion demon flowers. After which, they went back into the stone symbol. After they disappeared, most of the strange fragrance within the mountain cave also instantly dissipated. Lin Dong sighed in relief after he saw that the eternal illusion demon flowers were subjugated by Yang. Thankfully, he possessed the ancestor stone, a divine object that is extremely proficient at dealing with the Yimo. Otherwise, it was likely that he would not dare to enter this mountain cave. It is time to remove the hallucination fragrance within his body now. Lin Dong's eyes turned towards the tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe, who was seated on a stone platform. His expression was grave. If they were unable to remove the hallucination fragrance within the latter's body, there was no telling just how long they would have to wait for him to awaken on his accord. Relax. Yang replied. A light rose and appeared above the head of the celestial demon Martin tribe leader. After which, a humming sound was emitted. Warm light scattered downwards and enveloped him. With the many rays of light enveloping around him, the rock-like body of the celestial demon Martin tribe leader began to tremble slightly. After which, there were traces of extremely faint black chi being emitted from his pores. Those black chi contained a strange fragrance. That black chi emitted an ear-piercing sound when it made contact with the white light covering the body of the celestial demon Martin tribe leader. Soon after, they began to dissipate. Standing by the side, Lin Dong stood quietly without making a sound. All he did was stare at the face of the celestial demon Martin tribe leader. The latter currently had extremely interesting expressions. The majority of them were lost and confused expressions. Clearly, with the removal of the traces of hallucination fragrance within his body, the hallucination that he was in was no longer a perfect one. After all, if even the slightest flaw was to appear in the hallucination, attempting to trap a peak-level expert like him would no longer be a simple task. This cleansing continued on for half a day. Only then did Lin Dong see that the light that was emitted from the ancestor stone was being retracted a bit at a time. The body of the ancestor stone shook after the final ray of light returned back to it. It subsequently turned into a ray of light and tunneled back into Lin Dong's body. Upon seeing this, Lin Dong understood that the cleansing had been completed. He joyously looked at the seated celestial demon Martin tribe leader. However, he was stunned when he realized that the latter still showed no signs of awakening. Although the hallucination fragrance in his body has been completely removed, he has been trapped in the hallucination for such a long period of time. Hence, he must be completely conscious before he can awaken. Otherwise, he will be confused between reality and hallucination, which would end up hurting his mind. Yang explained. Lin Dong came to a sudden comprehension after hearing this. He quickly began to feel a little fearful. The eternal illusion demon flower was indeed impressive. It's no wonder it was able to trap a peak reincarnation stage expert like the celestial demon Martin tribe leader. Let's not bother about him for now. Whether he awakens or not will depend entirely on him. Let's first head to the other places in the cave and collect those eternal illusion demon flowers. At the same time, we will also be doing them a huge favor. Yang smilingly said. Lin Dong did not have any objections to this. He could help the celestial demon Martin tribe resolve their problems and obtain the exceptionally rare eternal illusion demon flowers at the same time. This was something that he was glad to oblige to. With this thought in mind, Lin Dong turned around and left the cave. Subsequently, he roamed the heavenly cave and found many closed caves along the way. Within these caves were peak experts of the celestial demon Martin tribe. Meanwhile, they were also trapped in the hallucination created by the eternal illusion demon flowers. Lin Dong waved his hand and collected all of these flowers, which were considered mystical treasures to him. Using the power of the ancestor stone, he completely removed the hallucination fragrance within the bodies of these top experts. Lin Dong managed to collect quite a sustainable number of flowers along the way. The number of eternal illusion demon flowers that he had increased from 3 to 9. Based on what Yang said, the more of those he collected, the more effective it would be for his mental energy cultivation. There were a couple of caves within the heavenly cave that Lin Dong was unable to enter. This was because a seal was placed at their entrance. These seals were placed by those experts, who were currently undergoing a cultivation seclusion within. This caused Lin Dong to feel extremely helpless. He could enter the cave where the tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe was in, because he possessed his essence blood feather. Otherwise, he could only stand by helplessly at the entrance of his cave. The 2 or 3 sealed mountain caves were likely occupied by extremely powerful people, who had a high status in the celestial demon Martin tribe. This was something that Lin Dong deduced simply by standing at the entrance of their caves and quietly gauging the pressure that was being emitted from within. Unfortunately, all of them should have also fallen into a hallucination as well. However, Lin Dong could only give up because of the seal placed at their entrance. This was something that they could resolve after the tribe leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe left his seclusion. Time quietly passed as Lin Dong roamed the interior of the heavenly cave. 2 days passed by in the blink of an eye. However, Lin Dong was still unable to detect the awakening of the celestial demon Martin tribe leader. This caused him to feel a little anxious in his heart. After all, it was almost time for the celestial demon Martin tribe to decide on the tribe leader's successor. Lin Dong roamed aimlessly within the heavenly cave. There was an eternal illusion demon flower, which was currently wrapped by symbol chains, in his hand. This terrifying object, which would cause a samsara stage expert's expression to change drastically, was currently dancing around randomly like a whip in his hand. It seems like I have reached the end of the heavenly cave. Lin Dong suddenly came to a stop. He could sense some resistance appearing in the dark space in front of him. A tinge of shock flashed past his eyes. After a brief moment of hesitation, he extended his hand and gently touched the space in front of him. The dark space in front fluctuated before circular ripples spread. However, no cave appeared behind it. Lin Dong gasped in surprise. His hand touched the dark space before he vaguely felt extremely ancient and obscure powerful ripples being emitted from within that dark space. That sensation was even stronger than that of the celestial demon Martin tribe leader. Could it be that the one in a seclusion behind this place is some super old demon from the celestial demon Martin tribe? Lin Dong muttered to himself. He did not detect the fragrance of the eternal illusion demon flower from behind. It seems like this was the only place which had not been invaded by the eternal illusion demon flowers. This caused Lin Dong to be greatly startled. It seems like the mysterious old demon in a seclusion here was terrifyingly powerful. The celestial demon Martin tribe indeed possessed an extremely strong foundation. Lin Dong did not linger in this place. He merely took a deep glance at the dark space before turning around. He roamed around the place before returning to the cave where the leader of the celestial demon Martin tribe was located. Lin Dong became focused when he had just entered the cave, before he immediately lifted his head. His eyes looked towards the stone platform, before he saw the originally unmoving stone-like figure, slowly opening his sharp eyes, which had been tightly shut for 100 years. Bang! A vast and mighty yuan power storm suddenly churned within the cave the moment this figure opened his eyes. The terrifying pressure caused Lin Dong's body to tremble gently. Lin Dong did not feel any fear upon detecting this pressure. Instead, joy rose on his face. That old fellow had finally awoken. In front of the ancestral temple of the celestial demon Martin tribe. The ancestral temple is an important place for the tribe and typically speaking, it had relatively tight security. However, this place was filled with loud voices and was extremely lively today. This was because the celestial demon Martin tribe would select the successor to the tribe leader today. This matter was considered as an exceptionally important event for the celestial demon Martin tribe. Hence, they had to hold it in a sacred place, like the ancestral temple, in order to demonstrate how important the event was. There was an altar square, which was made from extremely ancient rocks, standing in front of the ancestral temple. A huge stone tablet stood on the altar, and this stone tablet had the names of many ancestors of the celestial demon Martin tribe inscribed on it. All of these ancestors had achieved great accomplishments. A lively atmosphere enveloped the altar square in front of the ancestral temple. However, amidst the din, there was something faintly peculiar about the atmosphere. The source of that irregularity stemmed from the two clearly divided groups standing on the square. Standing on the left, their leader was a tall figure with a handsome devil-like appearance. Both of his lips were curled tightly, appearing just like blades. Meanwhile, an icy sharpness was present on him. His elongated eyes were filled with an inborn sense of pride, and he stood out even when standing amongst this group. This person was naturally little Martin. Currently, both of his hands were lowered as his eyes stared at the stone tablet erected in front of him. His handsome face seemed to be devoid of any emotions. Unlike the group standing behind him, he did not stare at the group on the right with icy cold and cautious eyes. The other faction also had quite a large number of people. Their leader was Hao Jiuyo, whom Lin Dong had met before. Even though his aura was inferior to little Martin's, his face was filled with a warm smile. As he occasionally chatted with those standing behind him, his laughter felt just like the spring breeze. This person was extremely scheming, and one had to admit that his demeanor made it easy for him to leave a good impression and convince others to join his side. Humph, what a hypocrite. Standing beside little Martin, Wu Zhong glanced at Hao Jiuyo and snorted coldly. His voice was filled with disdain. As a supporter of little Martin, he naturally did not have a good impression of Hao Jiuyo. Be quiet. Otherwise, others might start criticizing you again. Little Martin said without turning his head around. Wu Zhong curled his lips reluctantly. If not for the fact that little Martin had been missing for 100 years, Hao Jiuyo would definitely not dare to act in such a haughty manner, given the former's prestige within the celestial demon Martin tribe. I wonder how young brother Lin Dong is doing. It has been a couple of days since he entered the heavenly cave. Wu Zhong spoke in a soft voice. There was a slight tinge of anxiety in his voice. There was a slight change in little Martin's expression when he heard this. Following which, he shook his head helpless. There was no point in worrying about this issue for now. However, given his understanding of Lin Dong, he knew that it was unlikely for the latter to run into any major problems. Moreover, the tribe leader successor is about to be selected. Based on the current situation, it seems like that fellow has quite a high chance of success. If he is selected as the tribe leader successor, his say in the tribe will only grow by the day. At that time, it is likely that the tribe leader will not be able to turn things around even if he leaves his cultivation seclusion. Wu Zhong sighed. They were well aware of Hao Jiuyo's methods. If the latter was selected to become the tribe leader's successor, he would definitely quietly suppress and exclude them. It is pointless to think about it now. Little Martin shook his head. Since the situation had already developed until this stage, it was pointless to think about it for now. Moreover, did Hao Jiuyo really believe that it was going to be so easy to snatch his position? Little Martin slowly clenched his long hands tightly. Meanwhile, the sharpness on the corner of his lips became increasingly icy. Many pairs of eyes present were looking back and forth between the two groups standing in front. Those eyes that were looking at little Martin were filled with pity and regret. There were many people from the same generation as little Martin, and they clearly knew who held absolute prestige in the celestial demon Martin tribe back then. Back then, little Martin's talent and prestige was unmatched amongst the celestial demon Martin tribe younger generation members. At that time, everyone thought that little Martin was definitely going to become the next tribe leader. However, that accident completely changed the situation. In front of the ancestral temple, the din in the square continued. In fact, the din only gradually died down when 10 elders appeared on the stage in front of the ancestral temple. After the old tribe leader went into a seclusion, little Martin, who was supposed to take this opportunity to establish his position, disappeared for 100 years. Therefore, most of the tribe matters were now handled by these elders, and they clearly held a high status in the celestial demon Martin tribe. On the stage, the leader amongst the 10 elders was a grey-robed old man with white hair. Although he was already quite old, his skin appeared like that of a baby. There was a glint flashing within his gently shut eyes, while an extremely powerful yuan power fluctuation spread when he lifted his hand. This person was the current first elder of the celestial demon Martin tribe, Zhu Li. Zhu Li's eyes slowly swept across the altar square. When he looked at them, many members of the celestial demon Martin tribe displayed a respectful expression. However, little Martin merely nodded to him when he turned to look at little Martin. Zhu Li looked at little Martin, before he nodded his head and withdrew his gaze. However, he secretly sighed in his heart. 100 years ago, not a single person from the younger generation could match up to the latter. Even Hao Jiuyou, who was now the most outstanding younger generation member, was merely the latter's lackey at that time. Unfortunately, 100 years had allowed those behind him to catch up. Everyone is well aware of the reason why we have gathered here today. The tribe leader has been in a seclusion for 100 years, and we need someone to handle the tribe matters. However, the tribe leader is not showing any signs of coming out from his seclusion. Hence, the tribe needs to select a tribe leader successor. Zhu Li's eyes scanned his surroundings as he spoke in a deep voice. There are currently 2 candidates in the tribe, Jiao and Hao Jiuyou. Their reputation within the tribe are equal to each other, and the Elder Council has difficulties coming to a conclusion even after a discussion. Everyone in the square nodded. Little Martin and Hao Jiuyou. One of them had already made a name for himself in the celestial demon Martin tribe a long time ago, while the other had risen in recent years. However, Hao Jiuyou's performance over the recent years did not lose out to little Martin's back then. It was indeed difficult to pick between the two of them. It is precisely because of this that we have finally decided to adopt the most primitive method. The victor shall be king. Zhu Li slowly said. His eyes drifted towards the calm-looking little Martin when he uttered these words. He had always maintained a neutral position in the tribe. However, in reality, he leaned a little closer to little Martin's father. Hence, he also supported little Martin. However, owing to his status, it was impossible for him to openly support little Martin, as he must remain impartial. After all, that was his responsibility as the first elder of the tribe. Little Martin and Hao Jiuyou were both powerful experts, who had stepped into the samsara stage. In fact, even amongst the entire celestial demon Martin tribe, the both of them were considered as outstanding members. Hence, after some deliberation, they concluded that the both of them were pretty good candidates for the position of tribe leader successor. Since it was difficult to make a choice through voting, they could only use the method advocated in the demonic beast world. The strongest was king. After all that talk, we still end up fighting. Wu Zhong curled his lips and said, "This is the easiest and most direct method." Little Martin replied in a faint voice. "However, as of now, that fellow is no simple pushover. In fact, his strength is likely not inferior to yours. I really wonder how his strength has soared so rapidly over the last 100 years. Could it be that he has been suppressing it all along?" Wu Zhong frowned. Meanwhile, his tone also became a little more solemn. After all, he had personally witnessed Hao Jiuyou's shocking rise in the celestial demon Martin tribe over the past 100 years. A couple of years ago, the latter had even fought with an elder and defeated him. After which, his reputation within the tribe soared to its peak. Although Wu Zong greatly disliked Hao Jiuyou, he did not dare to underestimate the latter's frightening strength. In fact, even though he had trained for a longer period of time, he knew that he would likely lose in a real fight. Many voices rose from the originally quiet square after Zhu Li's voice sounded. A few pairs of eyes continuously stared at little Martin and Hao Jiuyou, while their eyes contained a look of curiosity. Clearly, they wanted to find out who was the stronger one out of these two outstanding Celestial Demon Martin tribe members. Do the both of you have any objections to the Elder Council's decision? Zhu Li looked towards little Martin and Hao Jiuyou before asking. Hao Jiuyou smiled slightly and shook his head after hearing this. However, someone standing beside him suddenly asked, "First Elder, it is rumored that someone tried to barge into the Heavenly Cave a couple of days ago. That act is against the rules of the tribe." Zhu Li frowned slightly, before he glanced at the person standing beside Hao Jiuyou. He was naturally aware of this matter. However, he did not pursue this matter after considering the fact that little Martin was worried about his father. Nevertheless, little Martin had indeed broken the rules of the tribe. By mentioning this now, it was obvious that this person was trying to accuse little Martin of ignoring the rules of the tribe. "Ha ha, First Elder, please do not pay any attention to him. Big Brother Jiao is an extremely rational person and he merely acted reckless in this matter. This is pardonable. Hence, please do not fault Big Brother Jiao." Hao Jiuyou smiled before chiding the person who had spoken, standing beside him. Damn it, this bastard really knows how to put up a show. Wu Zong's face turned green in fury. Would that fellow dare to mention this matter if he had not been instructed by Hao Jiuyou? Now, this incident merely ended up bolstering Hao Jiuyou's reputation. Little Martin's handsome face was still devoid of emotions. He merely glanced deeply at a smiling Hao Jiuyou. A smile that was devoid of joy or anger appeared. "Brother Jiuyou, thank you for understanding. I have been gone for 100 years and my training has been greatly neglected. Hence, I also wish to find out just how much stronger you are compared to back then." Hao Jiuyou stared at little Martin's handsome face, before his pupils shrunk. As he recalled the latter's former glory, even someone like him felt his heart shudder. However, his present self was no longer the same as back then. "I will let everyone know that my present self already stands above you, the previous top genius of the Celestial Demon Martin tribe." Hao Jiuyou slowly clenched the hands under his sleeves as he slowly stepped forward. A murderous intent lingered over his heart as he stepped forward. This video will end here.